For 15 years, I tried to be the best father for my daughter, Lena. All for her to tell me on her wedding day, "My real father is walking me down the aisle, not you." She was talking about Ray, the man my ex-wife, Sylvia, married 3 years ago. But what truly destroyed me wasn't her rejection at the altar. It was what I found in the unmarked package waiting on my doorstep when I got home. My name is David Miller, and I'm 48 years old. For the last 15 years, I've been a single dad to my daughter Lena, who just turned 23 last month. I run a veterinary practice here in our typical Midwestern town, the same one my father started 40 years ago. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where people still drop off casseroles when you're sick, and where secrets eventually come to light. Lena is my only child, my whole world since the day she was born. Her mother, Sylvia, left us when Lena was just 8 years old. No warning, no explanation that made sense, just a note on the kitchen counter saying she needed to find herself and we were better off without her. She signed away her parental rights without a fight and disappeared to Oregon. For 15 years, I was mother and father, friend and disciplinarian, protector and provider. Then, 3 years ago, Sylvia came back into our lives with her new husband, Ray Sherman. Ray owns half the commercial real estate around Cincinnati, the kind of man who wears custom-tailored suits to casual dinners and has a different luxury car for each day of the week. Suddenly, the mother who couldn't handle the responsibility of raising a child was the perfect mom, bankrolled by someone else's money. The morning of Lena's wedding was supposed to be the proudest day of my life. Instead, it was the day I learned that 15 years of love, sacrifice, and devotion could be erased by 3 years of expensive gifts and carefully sewn lies. When Lena told me that Ray would be giving her away instead of me, when she said he was her true father figure now, something inside me shattered into pieces I thought could never fit back together. But that package on my doorstep, with Lena's childhood diary inside, changed everything. The note she'd left asked me to read page 47 before judging her, and then the final entry. What I found on those pages revealed such a twisted truth, such a devastating secret, that I realized I had never truly understood what was happening in my own daughter's life. The girl I had raised to be strong had been fighting a battle I knew nothing about. She had been protecting me in ways I could never have imagined, and sacrificing herself because I had taught her that's what love looks like. This is the story of how I lost my daughter on her wedding day and found her again in the words she wrote when she thought I would never see them. It's about the price of a father's love, the weight of a daughter's sacrifice, and the moment you realize that sometimes the greatest act of love is letting someone hurt you to save themselves. The morning of Lena's wedding began like a dream come true. I was up at 5:30 a.m., too excited to sleep, ironing my rented tux for the third time. The steam rose in little clouds as I worked out every possible wrinkle, determined to look perfect for my daughter's big day. My hands were steady, the hands of a vet used to precise work, but my heart was racing as if I'd run a marathon. My eyes fell on the framed photo on my dresser as sunlight streamed through the window. Lena, age 9, missing her 2 front teeth, sitting on my shoulders at the town fair. The picture was taken 2 months after Sylvia left us. I remember Lena asking me that day if Mom left because she hadn't been a good enough daughter. I told her that adults sometimes have problems that have nothing to do with their kids, that Sylvia's leaving was about her own struggles, not Lena's worth. She nodded as if she understood, but I saw the doubt in her eyes, a doubt that took years to fade. "You're going to burn a hole in that jacket if you keep at it," my dad, Robert, said from the doorway. At 78, he still moved with the surety of a man who'd worked with his hands his whole life, first as a carpenter, then helping me build my vet practice. He'd moved in with us 5 years ago after Mom died of cancer and became Lena's third parent, the grandfather who never missed a school play or a soccer game. "I just want everything to be perfect, Dad," I said, carefully hanging up the jacket. "Your only daughter doesn't get married every day." Robert came over and straightened my collar with practiced hands. "Your mother would be so proud today. She always said, 'Lena got David's strength, but she has my wisdom.'" "I wish Mom could see her in that dress," I admitted. She'd helped Lena pick it out last year, just before she got too sick to leave the house. My sister Karen burst in without knocking, already in her lavender bridesmaid's dress, At 45, she still had the energy of someone half her age, probably from chasing after her 3 teenagers. "David, you need to eat. I brought breakfast sandwiches from the Sunrise Cafe. Lena specifically requested their pancakes for the bridal party, so I got extra." "I'm too nervous to eat," I said, but took the sandwich anyway. The Sunrise Cafe had been Lena's favorite since she was a kid. Every Saturday morning after her soccer games, we'd go there for pancakes and hash browns. She'd tell me about her week at school, her friends, her dreams of becoming a pediatric nurse. Those breakfast conversations were where I learned who my daughter really was. "Remember when she was 10 and tried to make her own wedding dress out of crepe paper and Mom's old curtains?" Karen laughed, sitting on the edge of my bed. "She made you walk her down the hallway while she hummed the wedding march." She made Robert the groom," I added, smiling. "Said she needed to practice with someone who wouldn't step on her feet." "I was honored to help," Robert chuckled, though I did point out that at her real wedding, the groom probably shouldn't be old enough to be her grandfather. Tobias Albrecht, the actual groom, was a good kid. 25 years old, worked as an electrical engineer for the county 2 towns over. He'd asked for my permission to propose to her last year, showing up at my door in his Sunday best, sweating through his shirt despite the December cold. He loved Lena the way she deserved, with respect, patience, and genuine admiration. I'd watched him look at her the way I used to look at Sylvia before everything fell apart. "Tobias's family got in last night," Karen informed me. "His mother cornered me at the rehearsal dinner to say how lucky Tobias is to be marrying into our family. She said she'd never seen him happier than he is with Lena." The rehearsal dinner had been perfect, held at the Linden Inn, where Sylvia and I had our own reception 25 years earlier. Lena had been radiant, laughing with her bridesmaids, dancing with Tobias, making sure every guest felt included. She'd pulled me aside during dessert to thank me for everything, for being both parents, for never making her feel like she was missing out because her mother wasn't around. "You gave me everything I ever needed, Dad," she'd said, her eyes glistening. "Because of you, I know what real love looks like." Now, in my childhood bedroom in the house where I'd raised her, I felt the weight of those 15 years like a warm blanket on my shoulders. Every sacrifice had been worth it to see her so happy. At 7 a.m., Karen knocked on my door again. "David, Lena's asking for you. Says she needs to talk to you before the ceremony. She's in the bride's room." The walk to the church took 10 minutes, but I stopped at Bloom's Florist on Main Street to pick up a small bouquet of white daisies, Lena's favorite flower since she was 5. She used to pick them from our garden and present them to me like precious treasures. The church looked magnificent in the morning light, its white steeple reaching into a perfectly clear sky. The parking lot was already filling up with guests, and I recognized that half the town had turned out for my daughter's big day. I found Lena in the bride's room, surrounded by her 4 bridesmaids, who quickly excused themselves when they saw me. She stood before the large mirror, smoothing the dress she'd picked out with my mother, an elegant A-line gown with delicate lace sleeves. But her reflection showed red-rimmed eyes and hands that couldn't stop fiddling with the pearl necklace I'd given her for her 18th birthday. "Princess, what's wrong?" I asked, setting the daisies on the dressing table. "Getting cold feet? Because if Tobias doesn't treat you right, I've got Dad's old Ford and we can just drive far, far away." She didn't laugh at our old joke. Instead, she turned to me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. It looked like guilt mixed with determination, the same expression she'd had at 13 when she told me she'd backed my SUV into the mailbox but had already arranged to pay for the repairs with her babysitting money. "Dad, I need to tell you something." Her voice broke on the last word. "Mom and Ray are here." My chest tightened, but I kept my voice calm. "Okay, we knew she might come. That's fine, honey. If having your mother here makes you happy, then I'm happy." "No, Dad, you don't understand." Lena took a shaky breath, her hands clawing at the fabric of her dress. "I've asked Ray to walk me down the aisle." The words hit me like a physical blow to the chest. The room seemed to tilt, and I had to grab the back of a chair to steady myself. "What?" "Lena, I don't understand. We've been planning this for months. We practiced our dance last week. He's my true father figure now." The words exploded from her with unexpected sharpness. "He's been there for me these last 3 years. He paid for this entire wedding. The flowers, the venue, the catering, even my dress. He got me my job in the medical division of his company. He's the one actually supporting my future." Supporting your future. My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. Lena, I raised you. I was there every single day after your mother left us. I taught you how to ride a bike. I stayed up all night when you had pneumonia. I drove you to every dance lesson, every soccer practice. I was the one who held you when Kyle Jenkins broke your heart in 11th grade. I helped you with every college application, moved you into your dorm room. Maybe she left because you were smothering. Lena's eyes flashed with a fury that looked foreign on her face. Ray doesn't constantly hover over me. He doesn't guilt-trip me about every decision. He doesn't need to know where I am every second. He treats me like an adult, not some fragile little girl who can't take care of herself. Every word was a dagger, precisely aimed. I thought of all the times I'd checked in on her, not out of control, but out of love, out of the fear that something might happen to the one person who meant the most in my world. My father, Robert, appeared in the doorway, having heard the raised voices. His face was flushed, and he was breathing heavily from climbing the stairs. "What in God's name is going on in here?" "Grandpa, please take Dad home," Lena said coldly, without looking at Robert, her hard gaze fixed on me. "Ray is walking me down the aisle. It's final. I don't want any drama. This is my wedding, and I decide how it goes." Karen grabbed my arm as she rushed in behind Robert. "David, don't make a scene. Not today. Think about what people will say." I looked at my daughter, the stranger wearing Lena's face, speaking with Lena's voice but saying words Lena would never say. The little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who made me Father's Day cards every year, even in college, who called me her hero in her valedictorian speech, was now looking at me as if I were an inconvenience to be managed. "If that's what you want," I said, my voice hollow and unfamiliar even to me, "I hope Ray does a better job in 2 hours than I did in 15 years. I didn't stay for the ceremony. Robert drove me home in his old Ford pickup, the one with the rattling dashboard and seats worn smooth by decades of use. Neither of us spoke for the first 10 minutes. The streets were empty. Everyone was already at the church witnessing my daughter choose another man to take my place. Karen had stayed behind to support Lena for the family's sake, though her eyes had told me she thought I should have fought harder. "That girl is making a mistake, son," Robert said finally as we passed the water tower that marked the halfway point to my house. "She'll realize it when it's too late." "Will she, Dad?" I stared out the window at the familiar landscape rushing by. Maybe I was too protective. Maybe I held on too tight after Sylvia left. I just didn't want to lose her too. "You did nothing wrong," Robert said firmly, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. "You loved that girl with everything you had. Ray Sherman showing up with his money doesn't erase 15 years of you showing up every single day." We pulled into my driveway at 8:30 a.m. The house looked different somehow, as if it knew everything had changed. That's when I saw it. A package on my front step. No shipping label, no return address, just my name in Lena's distinctive handwriting. She always put an extra curl on the ends of her letters, something she'd learned in 3rd grade and never stopped doing. Robert frowned as he shifted the truck into park. "Should I stay? We could watch the game, have a few beers, pretend this morning never happened." "No, Dad. I need to be alone for a while." He squeezed my shoulder before driving off, and I stood there for a full minute holding the package before going inside. The house felt too quiet. Normally on a Saturday morning, I'd have music playing while I made breakfast, the coffee maker gurgling, maybe a dog or two from the clinic recovering in the guest room. But today, the silence was deafening. I poured 3 fingers of whiskey, the good stuff I'd been saving for Lena's wedding toast, and sat down at the kitchen table. The package felt heavier than it should have as I opened it with my pocket knife. Inside was Lena's childhood diary, the pink one with the little lock and tiny key I'd given her for her 10th birthday. She'd picked it out herself at Main Street Books, running her fingers over the embossed butterflies on the cover. A note was stuck to the front, written on the same lavender stationery she'd used for her wedding invitations. "Dad, read page 47 before you judge me." Then read the final entry. "I'm sorry it had to be this way. With love, L." My hands shook as I found the tiny key, still taped inside the front cover, and opened the lock. The diary fell open easily to page 47, marked with a purple ribbon. The date was from 3 years ago, right when Sylvia had first made contact with Lena again. March 15th. Mom visited me today with her new husband, Ray. She was crying and begging for forgiveness. She told me something that changes everything. She said she left because Dad threatened to destroy her career if she tried to take me with her. She showed me old emails from Dad's lawyer promising to prove she was an unfit mother because of her depression. Ray says Dad manipulated the whole situation to keep me away from her. He showed me documents, legal papers with Dad's signature. I don't know what to believe anymore. The father I love would never do something like that. But the evidence is right there in black and white. I almost dropped the diary. It was completely fabricated. I'd begged Sylvia to stay, offered marriage counseling, offered to move anywhere she wanted. I hadn't hired a lawyer until she'd already been gone for 6 months, and I needed to formalize custody. She had signed over her rights voluntarily and without any pressure from me. I had even offered her generous visitation, which she'd refused. I flipped through more pages. My heart broke with every entry. Sylvia and Ray had systematically turned my daughter against me. There were lies about me hiding money from Lena's college fund, that I'd threatened Sylvia's parents to keep them away, that I'd sabotaged Sylvia's earlier attempts to make contact. Every lie was wrapped in just enough twisted truth to sound plausible. Ray's name appeared again and again. He took her to fancy restaurants in Cincinnati, taught her to drive in his Mercedes, promised her a position at his company, offered to pay for the entire wedding. Every entry showed him slipping into roles I had already filled, just with more money and flash. Then I reached the final entry, dated yesterday, the night before the wedding. The handwriting was different, more urgent, as if she were fighting against time to get the words down. Wedding Eve. Dad will read this after tomorrow, and I have to tell him the truth. Every word I write now is true, unlike the lies that fill the earlier pages of this diary. I know Mom lied about everything. 2 months ago, I found the real divorce papers in Ray's office while looking for printer paper. The truth was right there in the original custody documents. Mom left us. She gave up her rights without a fight. There were no threats from Dad. No lawyers attacking her character, no manipulation, just a woman who decided to leave her 8-year-old daughter and never look back until she found a rich husband who made her feel like playing family again. But here's what Dad doesn't know. What I've been carrying alone for a year. Ray has been blackmailing me. Last year I was at a bachelorette party for my friend Mara in Cincinnati. Someone put something in my drink. I woke up in a hotel room with no memory of how I got there. Ray was there with his business partner, and they had photos. Terrible, compromising photos of me that I don't even remember being taken. Photos that would destroy everything if they got out. Ray showed them to me 3 months before my wedding. He said if I didn't play along with this charade, if I didn't publicly choose him over Dad, if I didn't let him walk me down the aisle, he would send these photos to Tobias's family on the morning of the wedding. Tobias's father is a pastor. His mother runs a Catholic counseling center. They would never let their son marry me if they saw those pictures. My nursing career would be over before it started. Every job application, every background check, these photos would come up. But it gets worse. Dad, Ray wants to humiliate you because you represent everything he's not. You're a real father who earned his daughter's love through sacrifice and presence, not money and manipulation. This whole wedding, making you watch another man walk me down the aisle, is his perverse victory lap. He actually told me that your broken heart would be the highlight of his year. Here's what Ray doesn't know. I've been playing a longer game. 3 weeks ago, I used the money from Grandma's inheritance that you helped me invest to hire a private investigator. The investigator found something wonderful. The hotel's security footage from that night showing Ray and his partner carrying me, unconscious, into that room. The real crime isn't what's in those photos, it's what they did to create them. My friend Michael, who works in IT security, has been helping me too. Right after the ceremony, while Ray is playing the proud father at the reception, Michael will remotely wipe Ray's devices. Every photo, every backup, every cloud storage will be scrubbed clean. The investigator already confirmed Ray only has digital copies, too arrogant to think he'd need physical backups. But I had to make Ray believe he'd won. I had to make him overconfident and careless. That meant I had to break your heart today, Dad. I had to look you in the eye and say things that would make you believe I had chosen him over you. Every word was a knife in my own heart. But I knew you were strong enough to survive that pain. You survived Mom leaving. You survived Grandma's death. You could survive your daughter's cruelty for one day. Tomorrow at the reception, after Ray's leverage is destroyed, I'm going to expose everything. Michael helped me prepare a presentation to play during the father-daughter dance, showing the evidence we've gathered, the security footage, the blackmail messages Ray sent me, recordings I made of him describing his plan to humiliate you. Our whole town will see who Ray Sherman really is. Tobias knows everything. He's been my rock through this nightmare. He wanted to confront Ray himself, but I begged him to let me handle it my way. He loves you like his own father, Dad. It's killing him to watch this, but he trusts me. You were never smothering. You were loving. You were never controlling. You were protecting. Every boundary you set, every time you checked in, came from love, not possessiveness. You didn't raise a daughter who would forget 15 years of sacrifice. You raised a daughter who learned from the best how to protect the people you love, even when it costs you everything. By the time you read this, it will almost be over. Check your phone at exactly 2 p.m. Karen will send you something you need to see. Forever, your princess, Lena P.S. There's one more thing, Dad. I'm pregnant. 3 months. We haven't told anyone because we wanted to wait until after the wedding. It's a boy. Tobias and I have already picked the name, David Robert Albrecht. He's going to grow up knowing exactly what kind of man his grandfather is, the real one, who taught me that love means sacrifice. My phone buzzed at exactly 2 p.m. My hands were still shaking from reading the diary as Karen's name appeared on the screen with a video message. I pressed play and saw chaos erupting in the reception hall. The camera was unsteady, but I could see Lena at the microphone in her wedding dress, her voice clear and strong as she addressed the crowd of 200 guests. Behind her, the large screen meant for wedding photos showed something entirely different. Screenshots of text messages filled the screen, Ray's number clearly visible at the top. "You'll do what I say or everyone sees these photos," read one message. "Your precious daddy can't save you from this," read another. Then the security footage began to play, grainy but unmistakable. Ray and another man were carrying an unconscious young woman into a hotel room. The timestamp read 2:47 a.m. The young woman was unmistakably Lena, limp in their arms. The crowd gasped collectively. Some people stood up from their seats, others covered their mouths in shock. "This man," Lena announced, her voice carrying over the stunned silence, "tried to blackmail me into betraying my father. He wanted to break the heart of the man who raised me alone for 15 years, who never missed a moment of my life, who showed me what real love looks like." The video showed Ray storming toward the microphone, his face purple with rage, but Tobias and his groomsmen formed a wall between him and Lena. Sylvia sat frozen at the head table, her face as white as paper, her hands gripping the table's edge. "Ray Sherman is a predator who thought he could buy my love and steal my father's place," Lena continued. "He failed because my real father, David Miller, taught me that love isn't about money or power or manipulation. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's thankless." Police officers entered the frame, moving purposefully through the crowd. Karen's text explained, "Lena filed the blackmail report this morning after she said those terrible things to you." As they put handcuffs on him, he started screaming about his lawyers, his connections, how he would destroy everyone. The crowd just stared in disgust. Lena looked directly into the camera, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, if you're watching this, please come back. This celebration means nothing without you. You've walked beside me for every step of my life. It's only right that you're here for this one too. I love you, Dad. I'm so sorry for what I had to do." Robert was already reaching for his car keys before the video ended. "Come on, son, your daughter needs you." We drove back to the church in silence, but it was a different silence than before. This one was filled with understanding, with pride, with a love so fierce it hurt my chest. My daughter had carried this burden alone to protect me. She had let me believe she had betrayed me rather than risk Ray destroying her future. 20 minutes later, I walked into the reception hall. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Lena saw me from across the room and ran to me in her wedding dress, not caring that her train was dragging behind her or that her tears were ruining her makeup. "I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry for what I said. I didn't mean a word of it." I pulled her into my arms and held her tight, like I had when she was small and the world felt too big. "You were protecting me," I whispered into her hair. Just like I've always protected you. That's what family does, baby. Dad, I wanted to tell you first, but with everything going on, I couldn't risk Ray using that too. David Jr., I laughed through my tears. That poor boy has a lot to live up to. Tobias came over to us, his hand outstretched. Mr. Miller, Lena and I have been practicing a father-daughter dance for today. The DJ has the song ready whenever you are. As the first notes of I Loved Her First by Heartland began to play, Lena took my hand, and we moved to the center of the dance floor, the same song I'd sung to her as a lullaby, the one we'd danced to in our kitchen when she was 5, standing on my feet. I kept one page from the diary, she whispered as we swayed. The one where I wrote that you're not just my father, but my hero. That was never a lie, not for a single second. The story made headlines across Ohio. Ray faced charges from the Cincinnati DA's office for blackmail and assault. He lost his real estate empire in the ensuing legal battles. Sylvia disappeared again, this time leaving only a note apologizing for the lies she'd told. But none of that mattered to me. 6 months later, when David Jr. was born on a snowy December morning, Lena handed him to me first. Meet your grandpa, little one. You're going to love him. He's the strongest man I know. This is what I learned from this whole experience. Being a parent means your love is sometimes tested in ways you never imagined. Sometimes it means letting your heart break into a million pieces because your child needs you to be strong enough to shatter. Lena knew I could survive her rejection because she had seen me survive everything else life had thrown at us. She trusted the foundation we had built together, brick by brick, over years of bedtime stories and Saturday morning pancakes, dance recitals and driving lessons. Real love doesn't need to walk down an aisle to prove itself. It proves itself in the quiet moments, the daily sacrifices, the showing up when showing up is all you have to offer. Ray thought he could buy in 3 years what I had built in 15. He thought money could replace memories, that gifts could erase presents. He was wrong. My daughter didn't choose me despite the way I raised her. She chose me because of it. And that unmarked package on my doorstep? It wasn't just a diary. It was a love letter from a daughter to her father, written in a language only we understood, forged by years of inside jokes and shared tears and unshakable trust. That trust saved us both.